Hello, great ones. Welcome to the Live and Be Great podcast. I'm your host, Latanya Sampson McDonald. I am a life coach and a registered marriage and family therapist associate. And this podcast was created to motivate, educate, and inspire all to live and be great.
On today's episode, y'all, my goodness, it's been a whirlwind. I'm not going to ignore the fact that I've been gone for months. This season 3 should have ended months ago in 2023, but life was lifing, and there's a lot of things that, had to get taken care of, so I just didn't have the time nor the motivation to continue with these 3 episodes. There's only 3 episodes left, and this life just hit me. But for the better, things needed to happen. 2023 was ridiculous, okay? For me, definitely a growth year. But since there's only 3 episodes left, and I usually go on a break and before I start the next season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all the 3 episodes. Yep, 3 episodes, pushed them out this weekend. So today is the 19th, and you'll have 3 episodes to close out the season. Okay, so let's get started with this one. And of course, the last episode, I will go more into my missing in action and everything else that I want to leave you all with to start off this brand new 2024. So on this episode, I want to talk about how our parents and our upbringing, based off of who raised us, plays a huge role in us deciding what we want to do with our lives, no matter what it is, from career to relationships to how you raise your children, all of it, okay? How you view yourself, self-esteem, self-value, self-worth, all of it. And I got this topic because I went and I saw a play of the Michael Jackson story. I seen it, and I also watched the Whitney Houston biopic that they have on Netflix, I believe. And those stories, the way that they ended, were so sad. And a lot of stories often end in a certain way when you think that the person has it together, their life looks amazing, looks like they have money or whatever the case may be, and their life is cut short, right? And you often wonder what it is that drove them to their demise, right? We know Whitney Houston died of an overdose. We know Michael Jackson basically died of an overdose as well, given by his physician, trying to sleep. And there's a part of me that understands at the end of the day, the majority of us just want to make our family, our loved ones proud, right? And watching the end of those stories, how there was so much responsibility placed on them to take care of the family based off of their talent because they were bringing in the money and things of that nature. And other people, there's so much pressure, but what stayed on their mind was, is mom proud? Is dad proud? And if not, also not just is mom, is dad proud, but there's a lot of, for somebody, I'm still not good enough, no matter how good my voice is, no matter how much talent I have, how much time I put into making a perfect product, there's no grace, or there's always someone that is negative, right? That is like a thorn in my side, always pulling me back. And when we would talk about, say, social media, and you'll see different celebrities, they'll get offended by one comment. It'll just be the one comment, but that one comment basically pulls out your deepest, darkest thought about yourself, right? So that fear that you have that people may think if somebody pulls it out, that's human nature to just focus on that, unfortunately. And I wish it was different. I really do, because regardless of what people think, right? You shouldn't allow anybody coming against you to shape how you feel about yourself. You shouldn't. So when that happens, it's important that you surround yourself with your support system. You don't go into hiding, okay? It's good for self-reflection and self-care and things of that nature, but don't have a time limit on how long you're going to stay dormant, right? But also, back on another part of this topic is leaving this earth still not feeling good enough. No matter how many people told you you're talented or say that you're a good person, is like the worst thing that I feel like you could think of when it comes to your legacy in your life. And I want to make sure that I'm living a life that I can be proud of, that it doesn't matter if someone else is negative. It doesn't matter if this person thought I wasn't good enough. It doesn't matter as long as I think I'm good enough. Like, I was looking at the play for the Michael Jackson tour. I keep forgetting what the name is. But the actor and the way they shaped it, they talked about how Michael was a perfectionist, and he's a Virgo, okay? And that's often something that they deal with, being very, very hard on themselves. And people will call Virgos very critical, but they're very critical on other people because they're very critical on themselves, right? So when that happens, oftentimes, and I said it before on the podcast, you don't hear your voice. You usually hear your parents' voice. Like, if you think about Michael's dad calling him big nose and ugly and things of that nature. And I was watching how his father and his mother were like, you got to save the family, right? And oftentimes never getting those hugs, those kisses from his father. Now, he can't even call his father dad. He can only call him Joe. So that must have been very traumatic. But also, if that's your parent figure, it's like, okay, I'm a part of you. So I want to be better than you, right? But also, I want you to be proud of me. And he never got to hear it from his father, as far as how they shaped the play. We don't know. I mean, allegedly, Joseph never said it, right? But I know there's people out there that feel that way, that have experienced that wanting of acceptance from their loved ones. And it just broke my heart just to see it visualized on that stage. And for the actor, wow, it's kind of like that actor was even born to play Michael Jackson. So with the applause, with the reaction from the crowd, and just to win the role, period, I hope and I wonder, right, if he's satisfied. Like you, you basically were born to play the biggest entertainer, and it doesn't mean just play, right? He had to sing like him. He had to dance like him. He had to embody his trauma emotionally, right? And he did it, right? If you get a chance to see it, because I think it's on tour again this year, but if you get a chance to see it, you will see that it feels like you're watching Michael, right? So to get to that level of his dance skills, singing skills, acting skills, right? It's like the highest level. If you are taking into account Michael was the biggest entertainer of our time, was that enough for this young man? And what determines if you're enough? I want people to stop living for their parents. Like, I say it all the time. There are people 80, 90 years old that are full of talent, but because their parents put on their fears onto them, or their parents weren't accepting of it, or maybe they were overbearing, whatever the case may be, their parents had a negative effect on how they view that particular talent. They never try. And I want that to stop. I want that to stop. Like, at the end of the day, I want to be proud of me. I want to celebrate that I even woke up out of bed. And I even thought about how people will win awards, win Oscars and Grammys or whatever the case may be. And then it's forgotten about, right? They're not still pumping you up when they see you, excited to see you. It's not a standing ovation anymore until you win another award, right? But even so, it ends, it stops, and people forget and they move on with their lives, right? They move on with their lives. Or the popular kid in school is no longer popular. They don't even look the same. They're not in the NFL or the NBA or some top model or whatever the case may be. They're not any of those things, right? Or went to the Olympics. If they're not any of those things, how do they still have that self-acceptance into who they are? Are they still proud of themselves without the applause? And that is something that I struggled with when I was in undergrad. I struggled when I left college. I didn't have the applause anymore. I remember I was a part of so many different organizations, dancing, sorority, you name it, I was in it, right? Anything that I was interested in. And my family came and they thought that they may have been the only ones that would be able to say, Tanya, you call out your loved one's name when they walk across the stage. But I basically stopped the whole graduation. I got up there, I did my dance, right? And I was the last person in my major to walk across the stage. And every organization that I was a part of was at the graduation. So drowned it out, right? And that always felt good. It always felt good to see my teammates, my organizational colleagues. It felt good. I always felt good to be put in a position to where I was admired. But when I left, oh, it was gone. It was gone because, I got a dance degree, theater and dance degree in my undergrad, and no one was into that as far as supporting me, except my oldest brother. But my family were like, no, you need to do something else. And, why would you get that type of degree? And I was like, if I got to pay back these loans, I don't want to, I don't want to waste it on something I'm not interested in. I've always been that way. And through my spiritual discovery, I've been able to find out why I've always been that way. But I didn't have it. I didn't have the applause anymore. So it was very difficult for me to figure out a way to keep going. I want to say even the embarrassment that came over me when people would be like, oh, were you just on TV, or were you just on this award show or at this concert? I thought I saw you dancing. And I'm like, no. But here I am, terrified to go on auditions or having these anxiety attacks, these panic attacks, these bouts of depression, to where I would be working hard and then I would always disappear right when it's my moment, like right when it's time for me to make a name for myself. And then also something I realized when I moved to California, because the main reason I moved to California was so that I could still dance and act. When I decided to get my master's in psychology, and I thought about getting my master's in theater and dance, but when I talked to my professors from undergrad, they said that that's only if you want to teach, like it's not really required for anything for the industry, which it isn't. It's not required at all. But I wanted to save my family. I did. I seen cycles, and I always was interested in psychology. And I always told myself, oh, when I turn 30, 35, or when I stop dancing completely, then I'll become a therapist or a psychologist or whatever the case may be. When I was younger, I would say that when I was like in high school and middle school, because I don't like school. I just never did. I never liked school. I love learning, but I don't like school. I think it's mainly the test. Okay? And now we look forward. We know that has to do with anxiety and depression and my ADHD as to why testing is very difficult for me. And auditions, yes, very difficult for me. Because you just, in one moment, somebody else is determining how good you are at a particular thing, particular subject, particular talent, and it stresses me out, like many of us. But I came to California so that I could still dance, still act, okay? And the main thing I wanted to do was save my family. And then during that time, when I found out like the ins and out of the industry can be very, very dark. And there's certain things I wasn't willing to do, certain things I didn't agree with when it came to auditioning for certain parts and certain roles. I just wasn't interested any longer. And then all these darn public scandals, y'all see them back to back to back to back to back. I like, if I'm going to find a way to do this, if I'm going to do this, I have to do this my way, and I want to do it the clean way. But also during that time, I figured out that dance was more than let me one day be able to dance for Beyonce. And then I would have made it, or one day be able to dance for Michael, which was snatched away literally the year I graduated. He passed away, undergrad. I graduated 2009, literally the year, okay? And then Beyonce was at Coachella, and I'm thinking, okay, I done gained so much weight, I can't dance no more, that nobody's gonna take me seriously. And I see these plus size dancers on the Coachella stage in the yellow, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And what is interesting is, specifically, those are heights. We have certain staples in every culture that we as a society have decided to judge people whether they're great or not. Okay. And for dancers, Beyonce, is it actors, it's a movie or an Oscar, right? Everybody is, if you're a techie, working for Microsoft, Google, or Apple, whoever, right? We all have those staples. Doctors, John Hopkins, lawyers, lawyers get to the judge table, whatever the case may be for everybody. Football players, NFL, whatever. Okay, we all have those staples of what those are supposed to be. And I realized that dance was more than just, okay, if I can't dance for Beyonce, then I need to start dancing. It was very, very spiritual for me. It is something that I feel like I was born with to do. It is the way I've always been able to express myself, to communicate. Even when I don't have the words to communicate, I find a song and I'll dance to it. And the stuff that will come out of me without any practice, but just naturally can't be duplicated. And it's always a magical experience, whether it's just for me or for other people, right? So I got to that stage of no matter what other people say, I'm proud of me. I'm proud that I still got it. I'm proud that I was given this gift to be able to dance. And whoever see it, they see it, right? They're going to love it, which they do. But I'm going to dance for me, and that is my indication to the world that I'm taking care of myself because of what dance means to me, right? And then when it comes to therapy, I have decided not to get my full license because I have my AMFT license, but I've decided not to get my LMFT license, an AMFT, Associate Marriage and Family Therapist. That means that I need to have somebody over me, right? If I go the private practice therapy route. And LMFT, you don't need a supervisor, right? To be in certain spaces, like to take insurance and things of that nature. I've decided not to do it. Because my main reasoning is I had to ask myself, well, why am I doing this? And usually when it comes to having a license to practice anything, no one really tells you before you decide to go for it all the things you'd have to do. But also, I feel like it wasn't really for me. And if I'm going to do it, because that is something natural that I have, I'm a natural healer. I'm naturally intuitive. I'm naturally empathetic, supportive. I want to do it my way. So that is why I decided not to get my license, because I don't want to take insurance, because insurance, they determine whether you get paid. They determine whether somebody is going to receive your care. And I just don't. I'm not doing it. And the way I do things, I go above and beyond for my clients. And certain things that I do that I support them in, it's not in the books. And I just don't want that on me. I want to be able to do whatever I need to do for the clients, okay? That is necessary. That's just how I am. I want that freedom. So having the LMFT, it's like, okay, well, who am I trying to get this type of credibility from? Am I trying to get it from my parents, society? Does it just look nice? When thinking about getting my PhD, I'm like, do I just want to be called doctor? Like, what does it do at the end of the day? Right? And then in my profession, you can get paid the same whether you're a doctor or not. So I know I'm good at my job, and I just don't want these tests. I don't want these institutions determining whether I can do what I was born to do or not. And I definitely, back to the topic, I definitely want to make my own decisions and not have it based on what other people think of me. That's where I'm at, because on their off day, they can tell you something real bad about you and throw you off depending on who the person is and how you hold their word. And I don't want that. Okay? I don't. And we shouldn't. So to combat that, what I'm doing is I'm making sure that whenever I do have my down days, I don't go looking for the person that is going to pull out the worst fear that I have about myself. I go looking for the person or the people or the atmosphere that is going to give me that boost. And sometimes it's people, sometimes it's something I'm watching that I hear somebody that I admire say the same thing I'm saying. Sometimes it's a family member that I know has always been supportive of me. Sometimes it's an atmosphere, okay? Sometimes it's my husband. Wherever I can go, okay? I go there. And sometimes it's even my clients. Like, having breakthroughs every session is beautiful to me, or watching them grow is beautiful to me, or hearing them say, hey, I had a friend that had this issue that came to me and I remember what you said. All of that. When I go back through the history and I pull out the Rolodex and the history of clients that I've had in so many different spaces, from so many different backgrounds and so many different levels of my growth, right? And how I was able to make a positive impact on their life. That excites me when I get the messages from people who listen to this podcast or are on my social media about how I inspired them. That's what I focus on, and I make myself focus on that. Okay? I do. And I want you to do the same. Don't let other people's fears and their insecurities and their shoulda, coulda, wouldas stop you from believing in yourself and living the life that you've always wanted. Okay? Now, when it comes to also deciding that, sidebar, yes, oftentimes we do look to our family. We look to our family, we look to our loved ones when trying to decide. But if you've done that, okay, it's okay to do the shadow work, to do the study on yourself. I've told you all before, astrology helps, numerology helps. When you put in your information, when it comes to your destiny, it will speak to you. Go to those websites if you need some clarity, YouTube. Like, it will speak to you, whatever you're supposed to be doing and whatever excites you, okay? And then after you figure out what you want to do or what your destiny is, okay? If it aligns with you, if the information aligns with you and gets you excited, whatever that is, after you find it out, watch people in that field to get you inspired. Those days where you don't feel like going forward, or it may be a thing that no one in your family has ever done before, or maybe somebody in your family has done it and they're held to a certain standard and they reach that staple, and you have anxiety about being able to reach that staple. You determine what the staple is. Remind yourself that's a choice. You choose whether that's going to define how great you are in the thing that you love. You decide. Just like I did. I decided that I and my experiences, no staple based off of society's measures are going to determine how great I am. I already know I am, and
every day I get to wake up and be myself. It's a party. It's a celebration. I'm a winner. Okay? So that's it for this episode of Live and Be Great. I have 2 more episodes to go. All right? So stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Give yourself permission to live and be great on your terms. The Live and Be Great podcast will be airing every other Friday. If you have truly enjoyed this podcast, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving Live and Be Great a chance. Please feel free to share, like, give a review, subscribe on whichever platform that you're listening to right now, on iTunes or Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, as well as Google Play. The Live and Be Great podcast is strictly crowdfunded, so if you are interested in becoming a supporter, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to liveandbegreat.com and scroll to the bottom and donate to the Live and Be Great podcast today, so I can continue to give you good and motivational content. Thank you all for listening, and don't forget to give yourself permission to live and be great.